On your pulse point application, a lot of people have incidents on the golf courses. Does this pinpoint locations on golf courses? I thought you could go back to that one picture.
Yes, it'll come back up here in a second, and as it does, I think you'll see that it does. But again, that piece, this is much closer to the location coming directly from the device, which is a significant piece of it. So if the phone, no, if it doesn't come from the device right now, what we have to use is an address location. Unfortunately, with golf courses, oftentimes those are actually associated with where the actual golf course clubhouse is. We are and have been working on a process to be able to address each hole. We actually have that information now. We've been working with the district to get that information. We have that, and we're in the process of implementing it into our CAD system, so that at least we can. We at that point we do an alias. If we said I'm on the 8th hole of a particular course, we could find that, and that becomes a geographically dispatchable location that will map and will actually route you to the closest access point. So that's in the works of coming out now. But yes.
My neighbors had a garage fire last week, and they tried to use 911 within their home to, and they could not get through. They could not get through neither one of them. They had to run out of their house to their next door neighbor in order to get their phones to work. What would cause this to happen? Where you can't use your phone,
Sure.
your cell phone?
So.
Can you repeat the question?
Sure, I can. Yeah, so the question was, she had a neighbor that had a fire at their house a week ago, and they tried to dial 911 and were not able to dial 911 for whatever reason within their home. Why would that happen? So without knowing the circumstances exactly, and I'll give you my card, because anytime we have a failure with a 911 call, we want to know about it. But mobile devices are best effort, right? So that's a challenge for starters. If you're dialing on a mobile phone, there's no guarantee that that phone call is going to go through. But what I would be concerned about there is that if their phones were connected by Wi-Fi to the building, and there was an interruption in the internet service for some reason to the building, but their Wi-Fi, their phones were still attached to it, they essentially get no service. It would lock the phone up. Basically, you'd have no internet service, which is how it's trying to dial out. So without knowing the full circumstances, I'll definitely give you my card. Please have them reach out to me.
Quick question, if you dial 911 and you need an ambulance, can you tell them that you want to go to like Tavares, Leesburg, or do you get to pick where, and will they take you to Tavares?
Yes. Yeah, so they'll take you to whatever hospital you choose within reason. So if you say you want to go to Bayfront Medical Center in Tampa, you're going to pass a whole lot of hospitals on the way, right? So they may ask you, are you really sure about that? And there may be a little bit of a limitation on that. The other piece that I want to qualify that statement with, though, is that you may ask to go to a specific facility, and they may forewarn you. We would not recommend that based on what's called the offload time at the facility. So if a facility has, for some reason, been inundated and is at the point where they're beyond capacity, and now you roll up to the hospital in an ambulance, you might sit on a stretcher in the hospital for an hour or 2 hours. I've heard as many as 4 hours waiting to get off of a stretcher. In those circumstances, they're going to identify that that's probably still not in your best interest, and they'll recommend an alternate location. But you still, at the end of the day, if you say, I absolutely want to go there, you're going to go there, but just anticipate the wait maybe on the other end of it. So the answer is yes, with some minimal qualifications to it.
I have two questions, and they relate to the AED program.
Sure.
What's the difference in time when the call goes out, the dispatch goes out to the ambulance and the dispatch to the AED program?
It's simultaneous.
Are you sure it's simultaneous?
I need to qualify that because you're asking a very specific question. Give me the example of what you're...
We had a call out, an alert, and when we looked it up under Pulse Point or something, that said the dispatch went out like 2 minutes before what we received on our text.
Okay, so you're using an alternate provider in terms of notification outside of the Pulse Point.
Radio Alert. I think all the programs in the...
We all use Radio Alert.
we all do?
Okay.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I got to be clear here. I can answer and support how we notify Pulse Point. I can't necessarily guarantee any specifics related to Ready Alert because as the county, we have no relationship with Ready Alert whatsoever.
But the 911 call, the alert comes from the 911 call to Ready Alert.
Yes.
Is that not
The
correct?
county, so the 911 system with Pulse Point is integrated with the 911 system in the communication center. They're built together and they're driven by essentially what's called, when they're going through the EMD questions, you qualify in a certain category. So if you qualify as respiratory arrest or cardiac arrest, it automatically tags that. What you're talking about is a text message effort that goes out to a third-party provider that we have no integration or support with. So I can't guarantee when or if that is being delivered. Does that answer your question?
Well, it puts a lot of more questions up about what's actually happening. My other question, 911 calls, is it based on addresses? And what if you're on a big road like Churchill and there are no addresses, there are no homes facing that street? How do you, I was told that you can't go by street corners.
Oh, no, that's absolutely not true. Absolutely we can. We do a cross-street reference. So if you tell us I'm north of Morse Boulevard in Buena Vista, I don't need to know how far. I just need to know how far north do you think you are. And we will use Morse Boulevard in Buena Vista as the location. And then what happens is in our vehicles we have a CAD. So every time they type a note, it shows up in the vehicle as they're driving to the call.
Okay.
So they can read that and say the caller says I'm a half mile north of Buena Vista and 466. Not a problem.
I'm on these two corners, you can.
Absolutely, not a problem at all.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, sir, stand up.
one behind you. Then.
All right. The mic isn't working. I hope everybody can hear me.
No, use a mic.
I don't have the
He's
mic
working
isn't working.
slow right now. He can repeat the question.
I can repeat it for you if you need to.
I live up in Marion County, and on my phone bills, my cell bills, I see a Marion County tax on there. And on all landlines, you see a 911 tax. How much of that money actually goes to the district or to the county that's functioning in?
Okay, great question. So it depends on the type of device that you're calling in on, but roughly approximately 40 cents per phone is approximately what goes to a 911 fund for the county. I can't speak to Marion County because they may have more than one public safety answering point, but in Sumter County, those all come to the Board of County Commissioners. That's where the funding source goes, and then I serve as the 911 director for Sumter County, Florida. So there's 67 counties, there's 67 of us. We work directly with the state, and we coordinate the funding receipt of that. But it's approximately 40 cents per phone line. One of the challenges, though, becomes a lot of people are moving to mobile carriers, and they're not necessarily registering their phone numbers locally. So we don't see anything for those. Those dollars go to wherever their home bill is located at. Good question, though. Do you have a question?
Yeah, is the, when you use the cell phone service on here, dial 911, is that preemptive down as part of that AT&T Verizon to do the first responders job?
Sure. So you're talking about preemptive in terms of like FirstNet? Is that what you're saying? So FirstNet is the public safety broadband network, and that is designed primarily for public safety related, for preemptive calling. And what that is, I actually use FirstNet for both my work and personal phone, but it's designed with the intent that normal consumers, it's on AT&T is who they're contracted to. Essentially, it's designed so that anybody can access that service, but at a certain point, if the call demand is so high that we need more capacity for first responders, they can bump other users off the network. But it's also designed that the network stays up. When Irma came through, we lost approximately 60% of the cell phone towers. So although we didn't have a whole lot of damage, we did have damage, so don't take that the wrong way. But we were very lucky in terms of what we could have seen. We still had a significant handicap on communication as a result of it.
Actually, I have two more, okay?
I'm here for you.
Okay, the funding was answered, I believe, by the tax on the phone service. Basically, our percentage goes to a fund to support the 911 service.
So there's not a percentage. The question is related to, is there funding sources from the phones to support 911? The answer is there's a state mandate that whether you're a wireless caller or there's also prepaid phones and as well as the landlines. There's a different fee structure for those, but it's about 40 cents per line. One more question, then I gotta get to the back corner here.
Okay, not to take any thunder from your night, I think you did a great job, but also on the cell phone, being a first responder,
Sure.
I think it's probably important to mention that everybody updates their emergency contacts, because we can access it just by hitting emergency to get all their information on it.
Yeah, absolutely. If you can update your phones and provide that information in there, it's a great resource for everybody to be able to get to. It depends on your particular phone and your carrier. So I would refer you back to that phone that you're using. But either way, I definitely would encourage folks to have that information. And then I also encourage you to use Smart 911, because again, if that phone gets damaged, dropped, something happens, we don't even have to look for it. It's popping right up on our screen in the communication center. Excuse me. Sir, in the back.
Yes, I'm curious as to who you might be sharing this information with that you've gathered. I know it might seem like a funny question, but I'm just curious, if I'm not doing a nefarious act or something, is a smart detective going to show up and arrest me by using your system?
I'm sorry, say that.
Who do you share this system with? The information. Who do you share this information?
Smart 911?
Yeah. Do you share?
No, I don't have access to that information. So that's a repository of the information. You can opt in to share whatever you do want, or you can opt in to share nothing. It's entirely up to you what you're comfortable with. But I will tell you that when you dial 911, I can't go and look your information up just because you've registered in that system. You have to actually dial 911, and it has to be timely. What that means is that when you dial 911, I have to be able to say it happened in the last 15 or 20 minutes, and then I can pull that record up and look and see what that information was. But I can't actually look your phone number up automatically and go, I'm sure that John Smith is registered, and I want to see who John Smith registered is, what kind of car he has. I can't do that.
Can any Big Brother organizations access the 911 information?
Big Brother organizations access to 911. So the short answer of that is it's not designed that way. However, I'll also say that in general, when you're accessing 911, you're requesting the initiating contact with that. We're not reaching out to you. We have no way to do that.
I'm saying, can any other outside enforcement officers or anything else like that call you and access that information?
No, they can't access it from us, but they can access it from your phone carrier, and they can do that now. Any law enforcement officer can, they have a certain way that they can request that and certain parameters for that, but sure, they can contact Verizon or AT&T and ask for information, but that's not necessarily related to 911. That's just you're carrying a mobile device. So,
I wanted to thank you for coming tonight. This was really informative. So I've really got, now that I have the mic, I really have 3 questions.
okay.
First of all, many people here in this community spend time away from their home. For instance, let's say I go to Golden Corral to eat dinner, and there's the need for a 911 call. So I pick up the phone, I call 911, and the dispatcher's going to say, well, where the heck are you? And I'm going to say, well, I'm at Golden Corral on Route 466, but I don't have an actual street address. I don't have a numbered address. Can 911 access that?
Yeah, so we do it 2 different ways. In our computer system itself, we have what's called an alias field, and common things like that. Well, I'm at Walmart. Which Walmart?
Right.
Okay, we can actually kind of do some detective work and get to that pretty quick. The other side of that is unfortunately, I hate to admit it, but Google's a powerful thing. If you say you're at a particular business and we don't know that business name, we can do some research really quick on the fly to find dispatchable locations.
Okay, my second question is, you mentioned in your presentation using latitudes and longitudes. Is there a program that will interface with that so that if you know my latitude and longitude, you know the street address? Is there a system that...
Yes. So when I talked about geographic information systems and how important it is, that's what we've done. We've already mapped every address in the county to a physical location based off of longitude and latitude. So we don't dispatch by address per se. We're dispatching by the physical location. The address is just a reference point for someone else.
Okay, and the last thing I have is, many people are not experienced with calling 911, myself included. Though I've been in EM work for over 30 years, volunteer. So I'd really like, and you went through it in your presentation, but I'd really like you to go through this just very briefly again. When people pick up the phone and they call 911, most of the time they're in a somewhat panicked state. And the types of information that they need to give the 911 dispatcher so that those services can get to them in a very timely fashion.
Sure.
If you could just review those just very quickly.
Yeah, so one thing really, good point, and just I want to let everybody know, because we dispatch so quickly, I actually had an opportunity to go to California when Sumter County became accredited as a internationally accredited fire department. I got to present related to our dispatch center and how we handle our calls. And the commission actually had a hard time believing us. And it wasn't until the fact that they had auditors who came to on site and actually saw what we were doing. We dispatch so fast. The problem though is that we're going based off of where are you, what's the problem, we'll send help. To your point though, the additional information is what kind of help and how much help do we send? Well, initially we might send a fire truck and an ambulance because somebody said, hey, somebody's unresponsive, but then we ask more questions and we find out that, well, 3 people in the same house are unresponsive and I'm kind of dizzy. Whoa, that just changed. That's a hazmat situation. That's a major, major change in the resources that we're going to send. And because we ask those additional questions, we can actually upgrade calls and send additional information on the way. Based on the fact of what you tell us over the phone, we actually make decisions of whether to launch helicopters or not. So it's really important for you to just give us a couple minutes of your time and understand that they're trained professionals and they're very capable of getting you through this. Just take a deep breath and answer their questions. Go ahead.
Thank you for being here tonight and your presentation. Of course, you're somewhat of a minor reader. I should ask you the lottery number, but my question is, the newspaper just reported that Sumter County just started the emergency helicopter service to medevac out people and that type of thing. Is that associated with 911, and is it associated with Sumter County or a private sector person? And if it's associated with Sumter County, how does that work?
Sure. So, good question. What we actually did was, we haven't started that service in Sumter County yet, but we were approached by a helicopter service called MedTrans, which is affiliated with University of Florida, as well as Global Medical Response, which is part of American Medical Response. It's actually the parent company. They approached and asked that they wanted to look for a Certificate of Public Convenience and Necessity, a COPCN, in Sumter County. The big difference about that is we've had helicopters responding to Sumter, but if they want to base one in Sumter County, they need that document to do that. That was the first step to move in that direction. They've expressed an interest to plant a helicopter in Sumter County. Where that is and when that's going to occur, that's not known yet. But that is a direction that they're looking to move in. And part of that just simply is it's a growing trend in Florida. We're seeing so much change in population here and call service demand. I mean, Ocala has a trauma center now. There's a lot of things happening, and helicopters aren't just for trauma; they're for strokes as well. So there's a lot of good stuff there that could happen. Right behind you, and then you, sir.
Someone asked a question regarding golf courses.
Sure.
We were told that if you're having a problem on the golf course, you're supposed to call, and I don't know if this is going to affect how you guys respond. We're supposed to call the clubhouse and tell them where we are on the golf course. All right, like if we're on Amelia, hole 5, are we on the tee box, we on the fairway, or we on the green?
Sure.
And then Sumter would respond to a house number corresponding with our location.
I wouldn't recommend that.
Okay. That's what we're being told. So
I wouldn't recommend that. And let me tell you why. The folks that are going to be responding to you, we really want you on the phone with us, as opposed to, hey, can you tell me? Hey, do you know where they are? And doing that, passing it back and forth. That information, doing the kind of like relay service, it doesn't really work well for us, but it's also just problematic if we want to give directions to you we want to ask, if we want you to provide, to render aid, we need to be on the phone with you to be able to give you that direction to do that. So, in the back corner here.
Yes, a couple questions. If you're calling 911 and can't get through on your cell phone, this did happen to me, and my internet was working. What local number? I was thinking if I only knew the local number and I would just tell them it is an emergency.
Sure.
Is it that 352-569-1600?
No, actually, what I would recommend, I would not recommend that number.
No.
I would recommend if you're trying to call 24 hours a day, the Sheriff's Department's primary phone number is 793-2621.
Let me write that down.
Okay? So that's for the Sheriff's Department's dispatch center directly.
What is it again?
352-793-2621. And if you have a question related to fire or emergency services, their number is 352-569-1011. And they're staffed 24 hours a day.
Okay, and,
Just know that if you call that number, we won't have any location information for where you're calling from.
no, but could they have, I don't know, I guess that comes back, when I called 911, it didn't go through. Is that do you know why? I mean, there wasn't a fire at my house like that person said.
Not knowing the specific circumstances of what the mobile carrier was that you're using, I can't answer that for sure. I will tell you that there are times that the wireless carriers have outages. So AT&T will send me a notification and say, we're experiencing a service interruption. I get them from AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, and Sprint. Doesn't matter, the big four carriers, one of them has that happen every now and then. So that's what I'm saying. You may have hit that point where Verizon or AT&T or somebody was having an issue, and that's why your wireless call didn't work
And
for
I
now.
guess I wanted to know that now, like a year later, I'd love to test to see if I call 911.
Sure.
Is there a way to do it without?
Absolutely.
How
Yeah.
do
So
you-
what I'll do is if you stop by, I'll give you my card. What I prefer is don't everybody go home and dial 911 now and say I'm testing. I'm not going to be happy if you do that, okay? I'm going to have a lot of explaining to do if you do that. But we do allow test calls, especially if somebody has recently moved and they've moved service from one house to another house. It's always a good idea to make sure that those things are working. And we just let our dispatchers know we're expecting an incoming test call. Typically, one of us will get on a different phone with you and just say, when are you going to make the call? I'm doing it now. Great, hang up. You make your call, we verify it, and you disconnect, and we're done.
Thank you very much.
Of course.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Sorry.
I remember there used to be a helicopter right across from the Wildwood Community Center there.
Yes, sir.
And then as it built out, it disappeared. So
Sure.
that never relocated anywhere.
Well, it did relocate. What happened with that particular helicopter is I believe it moved to the Hernando County area is where I think it went to. That was affiliated with maybe Bayflight or something like that.
So it wasn't a local responder?
No, I'm not aware. The only true local responder that had a service like that was Orange County. Several years ago had fire or something another, but I don't recall what it was. But I don't know of any local provider that does. They're all commercial entities now that do that. Where's the next one at?
I have Google Maps on my phone, and I can see exactly where I am, but I'm trying to find some way where I can find the GPS location or the geo coordinates, that long.
On
On
Google
the
Maps?
phone, on Google Maps. So when I don't know where I am, I can pull out my maps and just give you a geolocation, but I don't know how to find it. Is there a way to find it?
There's a way to do that, but it's going to change based on the model of phone you have and the version of the operating system. Not a question I'd be able to answer for you, but if you got with your carrier, they probably would be able to answer it
Go to Compass.
fairly quick. Compass, you said?
Longitude and latitude.
Okay, so Compass apparently will be able to deliver that for you.
Just
Yes.
ask your phone, where am I? It's true, it's true. Ask your phone, where am I? And it's gonna come back with all kinds of details about where you are,
Sure.
Walmart's over here, a map and everything.
Sure.
You use it again today.
And the only challenge with that, and you're absolutely right, the only challenge with that is sometimes folks, believe it or not, don't have smartphones. So believe it or not, it's still out there, but go ahead.
I'm interested in how the new 24/7 emergency rooms are gonna
what's going to determine if they take it to one of the new emergency rooms instead of the ER?
Oh, great question.
24 hours.
Wow.
What was the question?
The question is, what's the difference going to be with the new 24-hour standalone emergency rooms? How is that going to determine where you're going to be transported? So the answer quite simply goes back to the woman's question about where do you want to go? That's going to be dependent on where you want to go. I will tell you that regardless, because there's 2 standalone ERs that are going to be opening up in the very near future. One's right across from Brownwood, and the other one's off of 466A, right by Lowe's. So with those 2 facilities, you'll be able to choose whichever one you want to go to. The difference is understand that they are full emergency rooms. They can do everything you can in any other emergency room. The only difference is going to be that if you need to stay there or seek some additional acute treatment, that is not where you're going to stay. So you'll be taking a ride from location A to location B to get to your next destination. But many times, those things can be treated and released without requiring a hospital admission. So really, it's going to be a question of user choice. Back here.
You had a slide about 5 back that showed the sequence that the call comes in, the police would take it first. That one, I'd like to take a picture of that.
Sure, go ahead. Absolutely. Yep.
But the glitches in the cell phones, like 2 of them mentioned tonight, and I know there's a lot more. Have radio boxes ever been considered in the villages? Ever been on the table?
I don't know, like pulling the old box alarm type thing.
Not wired, radio boxes. Like
My understanding is that there's some wireless pursuit of 911 call locations, like especially, you can imagine college campuses, right? So I've got a daughter that's in college now, and everywhere you go there's a blue light box somewhere nearby. I have heard of some of that being deployed or looking to be deployed in different areas of the villages, but it's still relying on wireless technology. It's not a wired phone, those locations. So.
I suppose this is not a problem in the villages, but does the 911 call center treat all calls as legitimate? And have there been incidents where they're not legitimate calls?
Sure.
And
so
how do you screen that?
Yeah. So good question. The question is, how do you screen calls whether they're legitimate or not to 911? So we do encourage folks that if you're not sure and you're not clear whether it's an emergency, we want you to call 911. Let us sort that out. Worst case scenarios, we'll tell you we're going to call you back, and we'll actually hang up and call you on a non-emergency line. So that's one piece of it. The question though becomes is, does somebody actually call and make fictitious calls or something like that? Sure, there are things out there. There's specifically, they call it swatting. It's essentially when someone wants to play a prank on their friend, and they call a fictitious call and say, oh my gosh, there's an active shooter at this location, and they make it sound really, as is. Some of those we just have to take them as they are what they are and present as, and we go and investigate. We don't turn any 911 calls away, obviously, and we do investigate even 911 hang-ups. You may, in fact, likely, if you pocket dial 911, which can happen, nowadays you might actually get a text message from us saying, hey, this is 911, did you actually mean to call us or not? And we will actually make you respond back with a specific response. So if somebody was actually like holding you, like say on the phone, and you said, no, I don't have a problem, everything's fine, they'll say, great, can you tell me, can you confirm if I say the color's purple, or whatever it is. So they'll have to vet that back. So that's one way we try to confirm who they are. But the other thing is, folks who call for fictitious stuff, we're very focused on location accuracy. So they need to be very careful because we're going to find out where they are pretty quick if they're calling us for that route. We don't have a lot of that here, but it does occur throughout the state.
Thank you.
Sure.
The last one here, I guess. If I call up 911 and I have a response that comes out to the house, and I say I want to go to some hospital, who upgrades that to a level 1 trauma center?
Like a trauma center?
Yeah, level 1.
Sure. So in terms of medical treatment, and I'm going to even go a step further because trauma is easier for us to figure out because it's really, it's really sort of obvious, right? You got some sort of significant injury. Other things, though, that are out there are strokes and acute stroke centers and stuff like that. Those require upgrades. We have medical protocols in place that we use as a guiding principle for that. And then we actually have medical consultation where we can pick up the radio, either call the local hospital or pick up the phone and call a medical director that's on call, give them the circumstances of what's there, and then make that decision. Most of the time, those decisions are made so that you're aware of them, but if you present with altered mental status of any type, they're going to do what's in your best interest of you from a medical practitioner perspective.
Could you just repeat, so a few people want to know, how do you register for that 911?
Sure, Smart 911?
Yeah.
So go to smart911.com. It's that simple. And you actually, if you go to our county webpage and just go to the fire department side, which is sumtercountyfl.gov, there's a link on there somewhere for Smart 911. It should be available to you. I know we're running tight on time, so I'm going to stay after if you guys have any questions after.
Thank you very much, Stephen. I learned a whole lot. I got a